We welcome you, sir, for today's event.
Thanks a lot, Deepika. So let me share my camera. Hope you guys are able to see me. Hi, everyone. So let's keep this session as interactive as possible. And I know a lot of you guys over here are students, and what I would like to do is, again, to some extent, it's always boring when you're just listening to slides and presentations, but I'd like to kind of do a bit of both today. So kind of give you guys a high level overview of what is Google Assistant, what are actions on Google, give you some demos, and then we will actually go ahead and start building. And when I say start building, you guys can actually do the same thing simultaneously as well. So feel free to leave your questions and queries in the chat section. We'll have a interactive session as much as possible. So with that being said, let me share my screen. So you should be able to see my screen at this point. So can someone confirm that the audio and the screencast is coming out well?
Yes, sir, it's fine.
Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. So in today's session, we'll actually learn how to build actions for the Google Assistant using Actions Builder and App Actions. So I would also like to show you what are the different multiple ways you can build for the Google Assistant. As some of you heard, my name is Sachin. I'm a Google developer expert. I'm CTO of a company called Tupelo Life. I'm also a Google head of Google developer groups in Doha. And what I would also do is I will leave my links, social media links, and YouTube channel in the comment section below, as well as my blogs and articles, which will actually take you step by step on how to build, be it from augmented reality to chatbots to Google Assistant and so on. Okay, so I've just left it in the chat section. So I'm also an active mentor for a lot of startups in the region. So I'm always looking for interesting companies or startups who are actively building the next big thing. And I also write articles and blogs. And with the whole pandemic situation, I hope everyone is safe at home. With the whole pandemic situation, I recently started a YouTube channel as well. So it's called Tech with Such. So I highly recommend that if you guys are interested in step-by-step tutorials right from the very basic to intermediate and advanced, you can go to youtube.com/techwithsuch. The links are left in the comment section or the chat section. Okay. So to begin, actually, if you look at the trend, voice is right now the future. And why I say that is we've seen a tremendous shift in how we kind of interact with computing, let's say from desktops to mobile, right? So how that shift happened from there. And now from mobile, you can slowly start seeing how the shift is happening as well to the whole industry moving towards AI, ML. And now, if you look at the way how users interact with their devices, it's starting to shift from the traditional way of how we kind of interact with our screens, the desktop screens or mobile screens, to actually being driven by voice. Why is voice the future? Because voice is the most natural way that humans communicate with each other. So just like that, for us to get a simple task done, you don't really need to open up your phone, unlock it, and then go through all the list and start seeing all those information and then selecting a specific application and getting the information. Rather, I can just ask like, hey, Google. So I can say,
The mic's off. The mic's back on.
okay, Google, what's the weather?
Currently in Doha, it's 25 degrees and mostly sunny.
So
Today, it'll be mostly sunny with a forecast high of 26 and a low of 16.
So you can see that the information is readily available to me in a quick glance, and I also get to see what's exactly happening for the entire week or the time, right? So that's how quick and fast that we have these information flowing to us, and it's all driven by voice. Okay, I don't want to get into this slide, but I'm not sure how many of you have actually seen this. It's pretty old. Probably you would have seen the newer movies that came out with it. But raise of hands, how many of you ever have seen this or have any idea about Star Trek? Okay, I can see one. Okay, couple of them. Perfect. So if you look at this, Star Trek, a lot of technologies that we are seeing nowadays has been inspired by Star Trek in one form or the other. Okay, so the whole idea about voice computing was not something that we came across just a couple of years back or 3 to 4 years back. The industry has always been trying to achieve this for quite a long time. And just to give you a small example snippet of this, you can see that this is a TV series that's come out in the late 1970s. And then you have a character over here actually interacting with a computer in the form of voice. So let's just listen to this.
Library computer.
History files. Subject, former Governor Codus of Tarsus IV, also known as Codus the Executioner. After that, background on actor Anton Caridian.
Working. Kodos the Executioner. Summary. Governor of Tarsus IV, 20 Earth years ago. Invoked martial law. Slaughtered 50% of population Earth colony that planet. Earned.
So if you look at that specific conversation, the captain is actually interacting with a computer, and all he's asking the information is by his voice. So that is how powerful voice is. But if you had to do that same thing in a traditional system, what would you do? You'll have to open up your apps or desktop application or mobile application, search for your apps, then start typing or searching for it. So this was something that came out back in the 1970s, and the entire industry has always been on a quest to make sure that we at least come to this kind of level. And to be quite honest, the industry is still evolving. We are still getting better and better day by day. But at least the experience is even better than what you just saw right now in the video. So speaking about assistants and voice assistants or virtual assistants, the first thing that comes to our mind is either the Google Assistant or Alexa. And for people who are using iPhones, you have Siri and other things. But at least to me, the two major players in the market is the Google Assistant as well as the Alexa. Now, what is the Google Assistant? So Google Assistant is your own voice assistant or your own virtual assistant from Google to get things done for you in the most helpful manner. Okay, so think of this as your own personal assistant who can always listen to you, get your daily tasks done, can do specific actions that you have configured it to do. And why is it important for developers? Why is this a very key thing? Why, as students, as developers, that you need to target for the Google Assistant? The simple answer is in this specific slide. You have across the Google Assistant is easily accessible across 1 billion plus devices. Now, unlike a traditional mobile application or your any other apps, the conventional form of applications that you know of, the user will always have to download that onto their phones or desktops and then kind of start integrating or start interacting with it. But for the Google Assistant, the best part is once you have deployed it into the Google Assistant, all these 1 billion plus devices will have access to your action. So when I say action, for people who are new to the whole building for the Google Assistant, here in Voice Tech, we talk about action as simple as action basically means voice application. Okay, so you're doing a specific action within the Google Assistant. That's what it means. So whenever I say refer to action, it simply means a voice application. Now, apart from being available for 1 billion plus devices, the Assistant is available in 19 plus languages and across 80 plus countries. So these are some of the reasons that we should actually start thinking about building for the Google Assistant. Okay, so how can you extend your existing applications? I'm sure a lot of you would have tried out Android apps, or you might be Android developers, and you would like to kind of extend your existing application functionalities into the Google Assistant. How can it be done? So that can be done through multiple ways. So let's actually, even before we actually talk about Android application, let's step back and see for each of these different types of developers or owners, what are the specific capabilities that the Google Assistant has. So if you're a web content owner, you have something called as content actions. So think about when you go to Google and search for a specific recipe, you don't actually get links right now. I'm not sure how many of you noticed. So just let me know if you've ever noticed this when you're searching for something, exactly like how to build something, or when you're looking for recipes. Before, when you were searching for these, it just used to give you links to the websites. But right now, if you actually go and search for it, you'll exactly get to see the ingredients and the step-by-step instructions that you can do. So I'm not sure how many of you have noticed. Just let me know if you have noticed that while searching for contents recently. Perfect. And for Android developers, this is the most exciting time because as part of last year, Google announced App Actions. That means you can integrate your existing functionalities within your Android applications to the Google Assistant. And I'll show you a live walkthrough of the code as well as a demo of how that's possible today. And for people who would like to really get deep into the conversational design and how to build conversational applications, you can actually build conversational actions with Interactive Canvas. So Interactive Canvas, it leverages the familiar technologies that we all know about is HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. You can actually have immersive virtual experiences that you can have with the Google Assistant via voice. At the same time, your HTML, JavaScript, and CSS will be driving the interface. So it's a mix of visual as well as audio involved. And finally, for people who are excited about hardware development, you have the Smart Home SDK as well, where you can interact your own hardware devices. You can integrate the Google Assistant into that. So I'm gonna go through some of these items quickly because, as I said, we want to make sure that we build this out, and while building, you'll get to understand most of these things as well. I'll also share the slides at the end of the session so that you can refer that and refer the links as well. So here are some of the things that you can do. So let's say if you have an existing website. So when you guys pass out, if you have your own startups already, or you're planning to do that, one of the most important things that I would suggest is you can structure your existing websites using schema markups. Okay, each website has depending on the content, be it, let's say, if you have an FAQ section or if you have a very specific structure to your content, make sure that your website is structured using the schema markups. And why is that important is, be it Google search or be it Google Assistant, it will always give preference to the websites that are structured. So let's say if I just want to search for what is the delivery fee for, let's say, Swiggy or something that you guys are familiar with. And in that case, if all I get is just a link, that's not information for me. That's not the relevant content that I'm looking for. I'm looking for exactly the fee and how much is the fees. So in this case, once you structure it, you will basically, when you're talking to the assistant or when you're searching for it, you will exactly get the snippet of information, because this is possible using schema markups. So in this case, you can see what is the delivery fee. You exactly get that delivery fee along with the information. Okay. So the content actions are available in terms of news, podcasts, recipes, FAQs, and how-tos. So this is a small example of what you just need to add as part of the content. So app actions. So again, on a raise of hands, how many of you are Android developers? Okay. I can see few of slowly the hands are coming out. Okay, great. So in terms of Android developers, you need to also start thinking about how users are actually using this. So believe me, for the past 2 to 3 years, I don't have a remote at home. Everything that I control in terms of home, be it my lights or my TV or the content that I'm browsing, is all via voice. I don't use remotes at home, and honestly, I don't know where the remotes are at this point, right? So all of that is being powered by the Google Assistant. I'm not sure whether you guys are able to see this clearly. So just let me know, because I think I can. I hope you guys can see this clearly. So I have one here, and just like this, I have different devices. I'm sure you would have seen the Google Home Mini, which is a very small device as well, which is kept in different parts. Now, apart from that, all of you, if you have your Android phones or iPhones, you have the Google Assistant inside that as well. For Android phones, you have the Google Assistant, or you can even download it from the Play Store. And for iPhone users, you can also download the Google Assistant and try it out. Now, in terms of coming back to Android applications, the reason why this is very important is, think about it in our day-to-day interactions with our applications right now. Out of all the applications, what the survey has found is people generally install a lot of applications. As you can see, even my phone, once I start sharing the screen, you'll see a sea of icons that keeps coming up when I scroll through the items. But only one specific thing is what I'm looking for. So the amount of time that is needed for me to actually go through this list and then find the application, it takes time. So let's go through with some of the options for Android Assistant integrations. So you have built-in intents, Android slices, read it as a function, and then assistant sharing. We'll go through some of these quickly. And the amount of people, the amount of money that people actually spend for average cost to drive installation, campaign marketing, all of this is also high. And you can also see there's always a drop of 77% drop of rate of usage 3 days post the installation. And all of this is because once you install it, people get the hang of it, and then they'll be like, okay. And most of the apps that we generally tend to use on a day-to-day basis is the social media applications that we use on a day-to-day to communicate with each other. So here's a example for you. let's do the traditional way of how we actually interact with our applications. Step 1 is to find the app. Step 2 is to select the items within the screen. So the user is having a traditional way of actually interacting with the application. Step 6, he's defining the quantity. Step 7, he reviews the order. And step 8, done, order complete. So it generally takes close to around 8 steps to complete this specific action. So let's try this. So you've already built this as your mobile application. So let's try this with app actions. So with app actions, you can see that all I do is have a natural conversation with the user. It says order 1 milk chocolate, well done from Smosmos. So Smosmos is the application name. And what happens is it will automatically gather that information, and using deep links within your Android app, it will directly go to that last page of your application. And depending on how you want to do it, you can handle it using deep links. And in step 3, we are basically done. So that's how simple and easy it is by integrating your features of your existing Android applications with the Google Assistant. So here's another example as well of Nike Run. So when you say start your training or start running using Nike Run Club, it will open the app and exactly start the activity timer, right? So that's how easy it is by interacting via voice. So we'll go through some of these during our demo today. And smart home. So let's talk about smart home integration. So show of hands, how many of you have any smart home devices at home and who are already using these to control some of the items in, at home? Okay, good. Great. So in terms of smart home device integration, this is one of the most widely used use case of voice assistants right now. And it is changing, but generally people, I mean, even for me as an example, this is one of the most highly used features that I use. So for example, let's see that, hey Google, turn on the lights in studio room. So I'm not sure whether you've noticed, you can see that there are
4 lights on.
So you can see that I have 4 lights on, and I think someone's audio is coming through as well. Chanchal, your mic is turned on. So you can actually control some of these items directly via voice. So another thing that I can do is, just 1 second. Deepika, can you mute them? Yeah. Someone. Yeah, it's actually distracting for me to hear that and speak at the same time. Who is the admin? Can you mute? Yep, perfect. Thank you so much. So in terms of the other functionalities is, I can say like, hey Google, turn the lights in studio room to blue. And you can see how
Changing 4 lights to blue.
you can see all the lights, including the one here. There's 2 lights up there, and there's 1 light in the front. So all those 4 lights have turned the color as well. Again, I have this integrated as button integration, so I can just click some of the buttons here and change the colors as well. So all of that can be done using just your voice. So here's an example of that. Okay, so let me also go back to some of the examples. Let's say, And if you guys are trying to build your own hardware device, this is also another demo. So let me come back to this slide. So here you can see what I've done is, while working with Google Assistant, and especially when I'm giving these talks, before when I used to have physical events, what used to happen is everywhere I go, I need to look for a power socket connection because this needs to be connected to the power source. So I was looking for an alternative. Then I thought, okay, what's the best way to get this done? Let me actually go ahead and build something on my own and integrate the Google Assistant into it. So here's an example of that. I hope you guys are able to see what. Hey Google, what's the time?
The time is 1:34 p.m.
Hey Google, how tall is Mount Everest?
Mount Everest is 8,848 meters tall.
Hey Google, tell me a joke.
This might make you laugh. What did the teacher do with her students' report on the history of cheese? She graded it.
Hey Google, sing a song.
Finally, it's here. I've been waiting for this chance. I could be on Broadway if only I could dance.
So in this case, if you look at it, I was actually having the entire power or functionality of the Google Assistant right inside this book. So from the outside, it looks like a traditional book. The only thing that is added that's visible outside is this small USB microphone. It's $1 microphone. And then inside this book is actually a Raspberry Pi device. So it has a Raspberry Pi and it has the Google Assistant SDK integrated. And that's all it is. So I configured it in such a way that it is connected to a small power bank. So everything is like compact. It is within the book. And wherever I go, I can actually interact with the Google Assistant by having this book near the place. So these are some of the other things that you can do in terms of the Google Assistant. Let me also show you another demo of home automation. So press in the tab. So hope everyone is able to see this. So again, this was back in 2000, I think this was 2017. Yeah, April of 2017. Google. And what I'm gonna show over here is how you can actually use the Google Assistant to control multiple things within your home. Again, a lot of the things that you're seeing right now has changed. I've had a lot more other additions to at home right now, but you'll get the general idea of how the Google Assistant is interacting with different devices. It's TV time.
Sure, working my magic. Sit back, relax, and have fun.
So when I say it's TV time, it has automatically dimmed all the lights in the living room. It has turned on the projector. Okay, and it is also turning on my home theater system and switching to the right source, since I have like the cable TV as well as my Xbox connected to the right source. So it will switch to the right HDMI source and then start playing the media, right? So these are some of the cool things that you can do with just one command. So all I said was it's TV time, and this entire experience is created just with the power of voice. So you don't have to find your remote, keep turning on multiple devices. So that's one. The other thing is you can also go and see when I say,
All right,
stop TV time. So when I say stop TV time, it will automatically turn off. You can see that it's turning off the projector right now. All the lights will come back, right? And then it has turned off the home theater system as well.
Google, cleaning time.
And when I say cleaning time, it will start, the vacuum robot will start interacting with it. And again, at that point, this didn't even have a Wi-Fi connection. So you'll see another device over here. So it is actually communicating with it through infrared and giving the right commands to turn on and turn off the
Google,
whole
turn the
experience.
lights in living room to blue.
So controlling the lights in living room, all of those things, I think you've already seen it live over here. So these are some of the capabilities of the Google Assistant in terms of home automation. And again, this is just scratching the surface. There's tons of thousands of devices out there which is integrated with the Google Assistant. The other thing that I can show you is also something that so let me actually bring it up. So I think 1 year back, I integrated the Google Assistant with a curtain as well. So let's see if I can share this live. So for the purpose of demo, I hope you guys can see this tab. So this is my Nest camera, and you should see the curtain right now, right? Are you guys able to see that? Okay, so in this case, what I'm gonna do is keep a note of what's gonna happen here and have a look at the camera as well. So let me zoom in so that you guys can see it clearly. Hey Google, open the curtains.
All right, opening the bedroom curtain.
So just with my voice, I can open
Here's
the
a matching
curtains.
video.
And hey Google, close the curtains.
Got it. Closing the bedroom curtain.
Okay, so just like that, we were able to control curtains as well. And now from here, I would basically move on to another thing over here. So let's come back to this camera, and I would say, hey Google, close the front door.
Sure. Requesting to lock front door.
And I have my door connected as well, so I can always open and close my front door. So for example, let's say I forget to actually go ahead and lock my door, I reach office, I can always say lock the door and it will lock the front door. So these are some of the cool, interesting things that you can do with the Google Assistant in terms of smart home automation. And if you guys have any other interesting things that you have done with the Google Assistant and your smart home integration, I would love to see that in the chat section. So with that being said, let's actually go back. And let me start sharing. Okay, so now if you're starting to think about how you can actually start building some of these experiences for the Google Assistant, That's where we get to the whole conversational actions. So on a very high level, how this works is whenever the user is interacting with the device. So for example, I was interacting with this device and this device was basically getting the things done. So how does this work? When I'm giving the hey G, and the reason I'm saying that is the device over here would get triggered. So when I say hey G, G stands for Google, it will automatically start listening to your voice. And in this case, whatever the voice command that I'm saying or the conversation that I'm saying, it will then be received by the Google Assistant. And the Google Assistant is the person who is in charge of converting that entire speech to audio, the speech to text, and all the natural language understanding is actually happening in this part. And then the Google Assistant will then understand, okay, this specific action I need to pass to so-and-so voice application or conversational action, right? So in this case, what we'll do is the Google Assistant will then convert that spoken audio to text, and then it will also identify where to send it. So if you're building your conversational action, let's say in my case, I was controlling the devices. Each of these lights and devices are from different vendors. So when I'm saying a specific command, it will then understand that, okay, I need to pass it on to Philips Hue lights. So it will go to them, and within Philips Hue lights, once they receive the command, it will then hit their developer cloud. It will then start turning on or turning off their items based on my account, and then it will send back the response back to the assistant in the form of JSON response. And the assistant will then understand that, okay, I've got it, so let me give the response back in the form of audio back to the user. So that's how, on a very high level, what's actually happening behind the scenes. So in this case, what generally happens is when you're interacting with voice and when you're building conversational actions, it's very important that how the users interact with each other. So for example, in this case, understanding a simple response from the user like yes is easy. We can always write a condition to look for that specific keyword and understand it. But what if the user, instead of telling yes, the user says, let's do it. I do. Of course. Why not? That works. Okay, sure. So since it's a conversation, there's multiple ways that the user can give for one specific action. And what if they take it to another level and say, go ahead, perfect, agree, and so on. So you need to have a very powerful natural language understanding tool or framework to kind of understand what the user says, understand the context of it, and then do the necessary actions that your application can do. And that's where we come to the natural language understanding. So in this case, if you guys are completely new to building voice conversations, I would highly encourage that we'll understand some key terms over here. So there's two things. One is intent. The other is called types, intents or types. So what are intents is, let's say when I say like, simple example can be set an appointment at 3 p.m. So it can be an appointment scheduler, right? Your voice application can basically be like an appointment scheduler. So when I say set an appointment at 3 p.m., the NLU will understand that this specific person, he gave me an input. The input is this. And then based on the conversation, it will identify that which intent that I need to pass it to. So within your application, you will create a lot of intents, right? And the intents are the one that gets matched to a specific conversation that the user is saying. Okay. So who does what? The user gives an input, the assistant understands it, does the conversion, the natural language understanding, passes the information to your conversational action. So this is where you will be building most of the stuff. Then here in this case, you might also call your backend database or do any specific, or your business logic would basically reside in this space. And then from there, the response is sent back to the assistant, and the assistant is delivering that information back to the user. And finally, we come down to Actions Builder. So before, if you were looking to build for the Google Assistant, there were two things that you had to do. One is you had to build it using Dialogflow. So Dialogflow is again a framework for building conversational actions. But that was mainly intended to be built for chatbots. And in this case, what we are going to do is Google went back to the drawing board and said, let's build something native for the Google Assistant. And that's when they came across, that's when they built the Actions Builder. So the Actions Builder actually allows you to build conversational designs or conversational flow directly into the Actions console. So you see over here, so this is a small snippet or screenshot of the Actions console. Okay, so it's a fully integrated into the Actions console, which is the Actions Builder. It helps you visualize conversational flow, improved NLU, inline code editor, and deployment. We'll be looking at all of this through live hands-on session right now. And some of the major key things that you need to look into is intent matching. So this is what I talked about earlier. Whenever you're giving a specific conversation, the NLU needs to understand which intent to match. So you can have an intent for ordering food. You can have an intent for scheduling an appointment. So when I say set an appointment, it will understand that the scheduler intent is what I need to pass the information to. So that's called intent matching. Types is, let's say in certain cases, you need to understand certain key information from the user, right? So for example, the same example, setting a time appointment scheduler. In that case, you have key information like probably you need the name of the user, you need their phone number, you need the date and time, and for what service that they need the appointment for. So all of those are key information that you need to extract. Another thing can also be like, let's say, for example, you're building a recipe application and the user would say something like, I would like something hot and I would like something that is of chicken or veg related, any specific content. So you give what exactly you want, and then it can find a recipe based on that, based on your preference. So in those cases, identifying chicken or meat, it can all fall under a type called non-veg, right? All the vegetables can fall under the type as a vegetable type. So when you're giving those information, it will then identify that within your conversation request, there is a specific keyword, either chicken, so that can be tagged as a non-veg. So it's a simple example of what types are. And scenes, and this is an important concept as well. Think about scenes as, I'm 100% sure a lot of us who are watching this, who are part of this session, we all love movies, we all watch movies, and think about scenes as how you do when you're building a movie or when you're filming something. What happens is you'll have one scene where you have one or two actors interacting with each other. And then after that scene, it goes to another scene, right? So another scene can be another two actors talking with each other. So scenes are basically a small container where each of these conversations can happen in that specific scene. And based on that scene, we can redirect where to go. So it can, from scene A, we can go to scene B or scene C, right? And prompts, in this case, prompts simply means responses back to the user, okay? So every prompt that you deliver from the Actions Builder, so prompt are nothing but responses that you would send back to the user. And slot filling is Another example that I gave you was the same scheduling an appointment. You had to capture some key information from the user, like name, phone number, what time they want, which date. So all of that information is required for you to actually schedule an appointment. But in this case, what has happened is once slot filling is enabled, your actions will make sure that it captures all of these information. Okay, and we'll see that while we are building it as well. So here's a scene execution lifestyle. So when you enter a scene, the first thing that happens is the on enter stage. Then it comes down to conditions, slot filling, and prompts. This is how the life cycle is. Again, most of this, you don't have to worry about it, and we will start building right now. Actions SDK is for hardcore developers who don't like building on the UI, but they're very comfortable with, let's say, like Visual Studio Code or your own local IDE that you're using. You can actually pull down that entire project that you have created. And the reason why Google has created Actions Builder and Actions SDK is the vision behind this is two things. You will have people who are very good in designing conversations, right? So they can actually use the Actions Builder to design the scenes, the scene flow, how the entire conversational flow happens. Then you will have hardcore developers who will say, I'm very good in connecting to the backend and getting the information and all of those things. So in that case, what they will do, they'll pull down the entire project from the Actions Builder, have it in the form of a file-based development system. You enter your backend logic through your preferable IDE, and then you push it back. So you have two sets of teams working on one single project. And this is how Google envisioned this whole process to be. And moving forward, once you guys pass out, come out of your universities, you will have majority of the applications driven by voice. So here's a simple example of the Actions Builder and an Actions SDK. So you design it over here. It will then get updated in the code. You update the code. It then reflects back to the Actions Builder as well. Okay, I think that's enough in terms of a very high-level experience. Let's actually start building. So if you guys want to follow along, all you need, again, over here is just a browser. At the end of the day, you always have these tutorials that I have built step by step. You can always go to youtube.com/techwithsuch. You can subscribe to it. And another important announcement that I have for each and every one of you over here today is I'm starting a new developer series as well, basically for career development. So if you guys are interested in these kind of latest tech, along with Google Cloud and the path to get Google Cloud certified, I'll be starting that very soon. So I'll be more than happy to have you on the channel, and we will be having these as weekly sessions, probably every Wednesdays or Tuesdays, depending on the availability. So feel free to let me know what exactly you would like to learn, and that way I can prepare the contents. And most of the contents would be hands-on. So again, the best way to learn is actually doing it and learning. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is go to console.actions.google.com. So let me switch to a demo account. Okay, so I have a question here. I want to ask you, for the first year student who had just entered in the college, what should be his roadmap to get into Google right from the first year, sir? So there's no specific formula as such to get into Google or any other big companies. What I would highly recommend is when you guys are focusing on a specific topic or technology, learn as much as possible and do the things that you love, and as much as possible have hands-on experience. So I can give you examples where when I was studying, a lot of my friends and colleagues told me, don't focus on all of these projects kind of things, just focus on, CAT, doing some higher studies and all of those kind of stuff. But none of that actually mattered for me. For me, what gave me the kick is actually doing things by myself, learning on my own, and then start to experiment and interact with it. And over the years, that kind of became a habit. And from there, things started to move on. So things would eventually line up. You can always have a target. And whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And eventually, everything will fall in place. So that's all I have to say, because I have a lot of Googlers coming on the channel as well. And you can also hear their experiences on how they got into Google. So that's something that there's no hard set rule that this is how you would get. So before, there used to be a notion that, okay, if you're in so and so universities, then that might be your way into it. Or if you've already working for another company. So it's not that your first job can directly be Google. You can actually work in another reputed company or any other company. Your work, your action would ultimately decide where you end up. So what's your channel's name? I've already left it in the comment section before. So this is what it is. So can I get a recording of this session? So that's up to the admins. I'm not sure about that. So
Yes, sir. We do have it recorded. We'll send it over to you.
perfect. So in this case, I hope everyone has gone to console.actions.google.com. Okay, so I'm just going to create a new project over here. And let's just call it DSC. And you can give any project name. So behind the scenes, what's happening here is when you create a project in Actions console, you're actually creating a Google Cloud project. Okay, so I'm just gonna create DSC Actions. Go ahead and click Create Project. And once you click on Create Project, this is where things start to get interesting, because now you have different ways to actually build actions, right? So in this case, we saw the smart home, we saw the food ordering is an example. So I'm not sure whether you guys have it in India. So you can use your assistant and order a pizza, right? Talk to Domino's or talk to Pizza Hut, and you should have something going over there. You can also build immersive games for the Google Assistant. If time permits, we'll also try and show a demo of the game. And storytelling and education. So these are the different categories that you have. And since we are going to build something very custom, you can go ahead and build custom. So click on this and hit next. And then from there, again, you have different templates to help you in building. So this is a jungle escape. This is a sample project involving Firebase and Firestore. So for people who are existing Android application users who have prior experience in Firebase, or you have your backend over there, you can use this to use as a template to kind of easily understand how everything is connected. Conversation components, facts. So these are like if you are building something, facts about India or facts about Google, any specific action that you think, you can use this as a template to build it. What we are going to do is we're going to forget about all of this. We want to understand everything from scratch. So let's go ahead and click on the blank project. And the beauty of all of this is you don't need any specific computer specifications or anything to actually build it. As long as you have a browser, and I've seen people who have even built this live and during some of the workshops that I've done, all they come with is a phone. They just came to listen, but eventually you can actually do this directly using your phone browser as well. So that's how easy it is to build conversational actions. Okay, now that we are in this screen, let me actually show you what this means. So this is the Actions console. Everything that we're doing is under the Actions console. So Actions console is a developer platform where you actually build for the Google Assistant. Now, once you've created a project, the first thing that you would see is you're in the Develop tab and you're under Settings. Okay, and the beauty of the entire Actions builder is everything that you need as a conversational designer or designing for conversational applications, you have from overview to develop to testing to deploying, and after deploying to even see how your users are interacting with your actions. You even have analytics, everything in one platform. So before this was not the case. Right now it's all streamlined into one specific tool. And if you guys are completely new to this whole thing, this is the best time to actually go ahead and start building. Now, the next thing is the display name. So in this display name, what it means is whenever I say, hey, Google, talk to, it's triggering here. Whenever I say, hey, G, talk to so-and-so action name, so that is what this is. So if I say talk to Dr. Music, this will get triggered. So it's just an example. In this case, you have to come up with your own action name or display name. So this is the key way of how your users are gonna interact with your application, right? So this can be like talk to Domino's Pizza or talk to Pizza Hut. So they would have their own keywords or invocation names over here. Okay, so always think about that. But for testing purposes, it's not mandatory that you define it, but that's something that you can always add later. And it's also important that whatever you're adding here, you can click here and see how the assistant is reading it out. So when if you want to check, because certain names that you give, the pronunciation might be different, so it would be hard for the assistant to pick it up. So you can always check whether the assistant is picking it up properly using this section. Okay. Here you'll also have the ability to choose the different voices that you need for your assistant. So it can be depending on your application, whether you need a male voice representing it or female voice, you can choose that. Okay, so that's all you need to do in develop. And once you have this, right, if you don't have this, all you can do is you say talk to test tab. So whenever you say talk to test tab, as long as you're on the same account, it will understand, and then it will trigger your main invocation. So this is called a main invocation. So you click on main invocation, and immediately you will see that you have some of these items rendered on the main UI. It's very simple to understand. So you can see for main invocation, so this is like your entry point of your application. What should happen the moment the users enter your application? So in this case, when I say talk to invocation name, so if I had defined something like talk to music over there, it would show over here, talk to Dr. Music. So whenever the user says that to Google Assistant, it will then trigger the main invocation, and I can just close this. And if I click on this, you'll get to see additional information on the right-hand side, right? So over here, what you can do is when your action is invoked, so when this is invoked, what you should do. You can either call your webhook. So webhook and other things is if you have your own backend, and depending on the user, you want to give a different response every time, you can click on the webhook, process the information in your backend, and then give the information back to the user. But if you just want to have a static response, you can also do that using prompts, right? So you can just click on send prompts, and all you have to do is change this over here. So I can say welcome to So this is going to be your first welcome message that the user receives, right? So in this case, I can say, welcome to Developer Students Club. So we do events on various technologies. And if you look at it, what I've done is, welcome to Developer Students Club. We do events on various technologies. Would you like to hear about our latest event? Again, it's very simple example of a response over here. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is always keep in mind that unlike your traditional web applications and mobile application, voice is a very complex thing, right? The user can say anything back to the user. So if I just say, welcome to Developer Student Club, what would your response will be as a user? You don't know what Developer Student Club does. You don't know what your voice application does. So the conversation will then start becoming very open-ended. So as much as possible, when you're designing conversational actions, always make sure that you direct the users to a specific action. So that's why what I've done is, as I'm introducing Developer Students Club, and I'm also saying we do events on various technologies. So directly you're kind of mentioning what Developer Students Club does, and would you like to hear about our latest event? So when this happens, so this is going to be the response, right? Now, as a user, what would the response be? Would you like to hear about our latest event? I can say yes, or I can say no, or I can say not interested, any of those, right? So in that case, what I'll do is, within here, you also have suggestions. So I'm just going to click on suggestions. And this is an easy way of how you can add some of these things. So I'm just going to copy the same thing. And I'm going to say yes and no. So this is again not going to do anything special. This is just going to display it back to the user. Okay. And right now, in terms of the transition, it is basically ending the conversation. So that's not something that we want. So let's go ahead and save this, and we'll see exactly what happens, right? So the invocation is saved. And if you want to test this, as long as you're signed in to your own Google account, you can use your phone and say talk to test app. It will work on your phone as well. You do have to enable a specific settings in your account, in your Google account. Again, all of these things are mentioned in the YouTube tutorial, so you can always refer that. But the beauty of this is you can actually try it out in your own phone. Okay, so now that we've saved this, let's step back and see what we have done. Whenever the user says talk to test app, this gets triggered. And when that gets triggered, we are just saying, welcome to Developer Students Club. We do events on various technologies. Would you like to hear our latest event? And I'm just going to display yes and no. And then it will transition to end the conversation. That's what the default thing is right now. So let's test it out and see if this is what we are getting. So click on test. So once you click on test, what this does is it's actually creating a simulation or a simulator for you to try out your actions. So in this case, for people who don't know how the application would look on a smart display device like this, you can choose from the drop down over here whether you need to test it on a smart display or how it would look on a phone or a Google Home speaker like the one that you see over there at the back without a display. So you can actually test it out on all of these as an option. So you can always choose. So let me choose smart display as an option. You can see that talk to my test app is the trigger word. So when you're trying it out in your own phone, make sure you say talk to my test app. Okay. So let's trigger this and see what happens. Something went wrong. So let's go back. Go to main invocation. Sometimes it takes a bit of time. But also another thing, let's actually start building it out so that we get to see what exactly happens. Now with the suggestions, yes and no, what you can then do is so if you look at this, this is your main invocation scene. So let's actually create a new scene. And depending on whether the user says yes or no, we will transition to a new scene. Okay, so let's go here and I would say, I can say start. This is a new scene that I've entered and I click add. So immediately you'll see on the left side under scenes, we have a new scene. Let's go over here. So when you click on it, it will then transition to a new scene. Okay. Now, this is something that we need to go. So who decides? So let's go back to the main invocation. We need to make sure that this gets transitioned to the new scene only if based on a specific condition, right? So let's go and create something called as intents. So you come back to the start scene, and over here, depending on what the user says, I can add something called as intent handling. So over here, I can choose an intent handling called yes. I'm going to add that. So that's going to create a new intent, custom intent. You can see it's created over here, right? And let me also add another intent handling called no. So we've added yes and we've added no. And then let's go ahead and save that. So right now we've added two intents, right? One is yes and no. Now within this intent, you can go click on this, and this is where the whole machine learning and AI comes into place. So unlike all the different options that we are talking about earlier, how will the application understand the different options that the user says? So this uses the Google's NLU to understand the different phrases. So designing for conversational actions, what you are supposed to do is you add in few training phrases, and from there it will start getting better and better, and it will start understanding the conversation told by the user. So in this case, since it is yes, I'm just going to give in certain phrases that the user might say. So I can say yes. Maybe if he's typing from the phone, he's just going to type Y. Let's say sure, definitely. So some of the options that the user might say, right? So I'm just going to add it as training phrases, and I'm going to save it. And the same thing goes with no. So I'm just gonna, so this is the no intent, and I'm gonna click no. Maybe type it as N. Not at all. Nope. So these are some of the responses that the user might say. And as much as possible, try and add as many phrases that you can think of. And the rest of the thing, it will automatically, the ML will kick in. Google will use its existing NLU to kind of process the whole information. Okay. Now we have both yes and no intents recorded. You can also see there's some errors that we are receiving. Okay, hopefully this gets resolved. So let's go back. So we have the welcome. From there, we are going into the start screen. On the start, you can also handle the information, and then you have the yes and no specified over here. If yes is specified, you can even say the response. So our next event is on April 20th. Something like this, and save it. Same thing goes for the no intent as well. So when the user clicks on no, you can also say no problem. Something like that. And you save this information as well. But once that is done, when the user says no, he's not interested, you can always come down and end the conversation. So creating a conversational action is as simple as designing the entire flow, conversational flow, using scenes and these prompts, right? So let's go and check if our application is working. And if you guys have any questions or queries at this time, feel free to leave it in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to go. Okay, okay, let me reset the test. Let's give this a shot. Try again later. Because I've done so many of these projects, some of them would have gone into some limitations as well. So let me actually show you. Let's go back and do this from scratch. Develop. Okay, everything seems fine here. Invocation name, we're choosing something, we are going into the start. So when you go to the start, you also have some information over here. Let me add a prompt here as well. And so what happens when you enter the scene, you can click on the send prompt on the on enter condition, and you can add a statement over here as well, right? So let me actually remove this from the welcome for you to understand. So here it will trigger this, then it will go to the start, it will come to the on enter, it will have here, and then you can also add suggestions here. save it. And if there's any formatting issue, you can always go ahead and directly click here. Perfect. So depending on this suggestions, yes and no, if yes is matched, we will read out this response and we can end the conversation there as well. If no is matched, then it will say no problem, thank you, and have a great day, and it will end the conversation. But depending on your use case, if you would want to go to a different scene, you can always click on yes, come down here, add a new, create a new scene and transition to that specific thing. So start action is before user said yes and no, yes. So when you come into a specific scene, whatever is there on the on enter is the first thing. If you don't define it, it will just ignore and then start coming down. So if since I've specified something in the on enter, I've given a message, it will read out that message, and then depending on my answer, it will match the intent. If I say yes, it will then go to the intent matching yes, and then if yes is matched, what should we do? We said transition to the end of the conversation. So yeah, I think this is something that some of the projects I have disabled it because I have connected with my card. But let me actually take you through an example. So if you go to techwithsuch.com/ youtube.com/techwithsuch. So if you come down to these two, so you'll have a playlist called Actions Builder and Actions SDK, and you also have a playlist for the Google Assistant tutorial series. So if you're new to the completely new to the Google Assistant, you can click on this, or if you can actually start with the Actions Builder and Actions SDK. So over here, when we come down, so we have the same thing as you can see. So this is also a video where we actually go in depth. So here you can see when we are matching different things, we are going into transitioning to different scenes. And once everything is done, you can actually go ahead and test out the entire thing as well. So this is what you'll see. Immediately you'll get to see a response. You will start seeing the information. As you speak, you'll get to see all the exact same flow that we kind of defined in our project. Okay, so let me know if you guys are you were able to do it directly from your browser under your project. But that's a simple example of an actions project. So this is a conversational application. Now, next, what we will do is from here, so I can see that Shreya Prasad had said, yes, sir, it worked for me. Perfect, great. So you can see how simple and how easy it is to actually have some of these, to build conversational actions. So let's actually move from there. I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and let me go to so I'll start sharing my phone right now. and we'll see an example of app actions. So the idea behind app actions is very simple. That is, if you already have an existing Android application and you have implemented deep links within your Android apps, you can actually link to the Google Assistant using few simple steps. So for example, let me open up a project. So here's an example of an Android application. Okay, I hope you guys are still seeing my screen. So here's an example of the Android application. So what you'll need to do is, for creating or linking with Google Assistant, is as simple as creating an actions.xml file. And then within this actions.xml file, you start creating a deep link, right? So you provide this information, the parameters. So in this case, it's an exercise application. So whenever I say start walking using a specific application name, it will then trigger, go to the right specific activity and start doing that. Okay. And again, there's much more details involved in actually doing this. I'll be releasing a video soon in regards to this, so you guys can follow step by step. At the same time, if you're interested, you can also search for app actions on Google Assistant. You'll also get tutorials directly from Google to actually go ahead and do step by step on what needs to be done. So example of this is, let's say if I open up share my screen. Let me mute the other device. And I can say, hey Google, start walking using app actions. Oh, sorry. Hey Google, start walking using fit actions. So you can see that immediately it started the application. It opened the application and it's directly gone to that specific activity, and it is starting to record my activity, right? And if the traditional application looks like this. So if I had to do this in a traditional way, I had to go or I have an array of these devices. Now I need to keep searching for it based on alphabetical order, or in this case, I can search for fit actions. I open it, and then I have to come down here and click on this button to actually start this. But let's say that I'm already out there in the I'm already out for starting my activity and my phone is in my pocket. I have something like the earbuds over here, the Pixel Buds or your Bluetooth device. Or I can just talk to my phone saying that, hey Google, start running in fit actions. And you can see right now it says like start running. Right? So that's how easy it is to actually implement for the Google Assistant. So you've seen today two ways. One is the conversational actions. Again, it's very simple. Once you get started, follow the tutorials, you can actually start building conversational actions. As long as you have a very specific use case, clearly define it, and I'm 100% sure within a day or two, you can actually build conversational actions, submit it. Make sure, another important thing is also make sure that you follow the conversational design guidelines by Google. Okay, that's very important. But once you follow that, within a day or two, you can actually build and you can submit it for deployment. And once it's approved, typically the approval process takes around 1 or 2 days. Once it is approved, what I would say is right now, when you're testing, talk to my test app or talk to Pizza Hut, whatever the action name that you're saying, is only available in your device. Once it is approved, any user, you can even let me know through Twitter what you built. I can tag it and highlight that as well, or get in touch with me, and I'm happy to see what you guys build. But once you build it, once it is approved, it is available across all those 1 billion plus devices. So that's the beauty of building for the Google Assistant. So I think with that, we have 2 minutes left. I'm happy to take any questions or queries that you have in terms of the building for the Google Assistant. Harshit, yes, Google uses its own NLP behind the scenes. So every time you come here and you remember the place where we were training our applications, so where we added training phrases. So once you add the training phrases, the NLU and the machine learning basically kicks in behind the scenes, and it is the one that identifies or understands the user's conversation. So depending on what the conversation that the user says, the intent matching is basically happening over there. So search for conversational design guidelines. Okay, so you will see one from Google. Okay, so either you can click on this, and you can also open up this one. So what this basically gives you is, it's basically like a checklist on what you need to do to build for Google Assistant. Again, these are just suggestions for you to actually make sure that whatever you're doing it in the right way. So there's even like a checklist on what is the right way to design your conversations. So an example of that is what I told you, right? If you just greet the user like, "Hi, welcome to Developer Student Club." It's an open-ended conversation. So you want to make sure that your conversation is as precise and directed to a specific action, so that the user understands by interacting with your conversational application, the user has a idea about what exactly he can expect out of the application. And there are also cases where you need to handle errors. So for example, you're only designed the application to handle yes and no. But what happens when the user says something crazy? So just to try it out, he says blah 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 or something that you have not trained the application to do. So in that case, the default system intent will kick in and say, sorry, I did not understand. But instead of that, you can override that and add something meaningful. Oops, that's something that's beyond my power to understand, but why don't you actually give me this information that I'm looking for? So you can actually handle those kind of errors through conversations as well. So you can go through these guidelines. Again, it's very simple. So this basically gives you like a checklist of what needs to be done, what is a conversation design, and just a high level overview, so you get to understand what are the things that you need to keep in mind while designing conversational actions. So how to go from one scene to another? Again, very simple. Once you create a scene, you have specific intents that's matched. Depending on the intents, you can always choose at the bottom transition, right? So let's go back quickly. So if you come back here, So we created one start scene called start, right? So let's imagine that within this scene, you had some information that intents that is being matched. So when the user says yes, right now what we're doing, we're just saying, okay, our next event is on so and so date, stay tuned. And instead of ending the transition, you can always come and create a new scene over here. So either by adding it over here, or you can also add the new scene over here. So for example, let me do it on the left side. I can say next scene. So make sure when you're building these for your applications, you give meaningful scene names so that you understand where exactly the conversation is flowing. So now that I have created a new scene called next scene, it will basically come here. So that next scene will be available for me. So I can just choose that and save it. So now you can see that when yes is matched, it will go to a new scene, and you can click on that new scene and then on enter if you want. You can add another prompt. So it's just an example, so it's as easy as it is. Just clicking buttons and designing. But again, at the end of the day, this is just giving you a very easy way to design your conversations. It's the creativity part, what you're going to build, how interactive it is going to be, and all of that is totally up to you. So I would leave that completely up to you guys. Hey, Google.
The mic's back on.
Hey, Google. Turn off the lights in studio room. Okay, so that's done.
Turning off 4 lights.
So any other questions?
Let me think. Are you a lefty or a right?
Okay. So I think that's all I had from my end. Hope you guys actually found this session useful and interesting. And make sure that feel free to ping me directly in Twitter as well as YouTube. Follow me in the YouTube channel. I would love to see you guys on the weekly live streams. So again, you can have a way to interact with each other, and we can have these sessions step by step. And the new developer series, which is coming on, which is going to be starting soon on Google Cloud, will also help you get the Google Cloud certifications. So it's basically giving you hands-on experience of everything in terms of Google Cloud, its services, how you can build applications from scratch, what are the different things. So I'm gonna try and cover right from the basics so that you understand all the different features and how you can build everything from scratch. So hopefully by the end of all of this, you can actually connect different products and services and interlink with each other. So thank you so much. Thank you all.